Ever wish you could just like download a new language straight into your brain?
Haha, wouldn't that be amazing?
Seriously. But in the meantime, you sent over this mini lesson all about learning English words every single day.
Yeah.
And, squeezing it into just 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That was intriguing enough to make me want to hit download on this deep dive.
I love that. Like, we're installing an upgrade, right?
Totally.
And honestly, 20 minutes, that feels doable even on like the busiest day.
Yeah.
You know what really hooked me was how the mini lesson focuses on strategies that just fit into everyday life.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about like cramming or anything. It's
Yeah.
more about, finding ways to weave new words into what you're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like take the first strategy, for example.
Okay.
Reading or listening to things you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds obvious,
It does.
but how often do we actually do that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we get so caught up in like textbooks and exercises
Yeah.
that we kind of forget about the power of just genuine interest.
Mm-hmm.
When you're actually hooked on a topic, learning new words just feels less like a chore.
Totally. It feels more like a natural part of the experience.
Right.
The mini lesson suggests choosing a short article,
Okay.
maybe like 300, 500 words, on something you love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that feels so much less intimidating than tackling like War and Peace in English.
Oh, for sure.
What about things like podcasts or videos?
Oh, yeah.
Those work too.
Absolutely. Especially if you're someone who's more of an auditory learner,
Mm-hmm.
podcasts and videos can be incredibly immersive.
Yeah.
And there's just such a huge variety out there that you're bound to find something that really aligns with what you're interested in.
Right.
And don't be afraid to use things like subtitles or transcripts,
Oh, yeah. Give me time.
just to help you catch those new words.
Okay. So let's say we're like cruising along, enjoying our favorite blog or podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and bam, we hit a word we've never seen before. What's the next step?
Well, the mini lesson talks about keeping a vocabulary journal
Okay.
or using an app.
Got it. So is one of those better than the other?
It really just boils down to personal preference. I think some people really love that hands-on feeling of writing in a journal.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're creating your own personalized dictionary with definitions, sample sentences, maybe even little doodles or sketches.
Oh, that's so cool. Turning it into a creative project.
Yeah.
But what about apps? Do they offer anything that a journal can't?
Apps can be fantastic, especially when it comes to this thing called spaced repetition.
Spaced repetition.
Yeah, and this is where technology really shines.
Okay.
They'll actually remind you to review words
Oh, wow.
at specific intervals,
Okay.
which research shows is super effective for, moving information into your long-term memory.
Got it. So it's kind of like having a personal vocabulary trainer
Yes.
built into your phone. Speaking of taking detailed notes,
Yeah.
the mini lesson has this sample journal entry
Mm-hmm.
for the word intriguing.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a definition, an example sentence, even a synonym and an antonym.
Wow.
It's pretty thorough.
That level of detail might seem like overkill to some people,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's what helps to really cement the word in your mind.
Makes sense.
It's not just about recognizing the word, it's about really understanding,
Okay.
its nuances, its connections to other words,
Yeah.
and how to use it correctly.
Got it. I am all about making things fun, so this next strategy really caught my eye.
Oh, tell me about it.
It involves sticky notes,
Uh-huh.
and lots of them.
Haha. I love sticky notes.
So basically, you label everyday objects around your house
Okay.
with their English names.
Oh, I see.
I can already see myself sticking refrigerator on, my refrigerator.
It might seem a little silly at first,
Yeah.
but think about it. Every time you go to grab a snack, you're getting a mini vocabulary lesson.
That's true.
That constant visual reinforcement can really help those words stick.
Right. Plus, if anyone asks, you can tell them you're conducting a very important linguistic experiment.
Exactly.
And here's another little digital twist the mini lesson suggests.
Okay.
Changing your phone's language settings to English.
Oh, that's smart.
Right.
It's such a simple hack, but it's brilliant. You're constantly interacting with your phone. So all those basic words like settings, messages, calendar,
Yeah.
they just become ingrained in your mind through sheer repetition. It's like passive vocabulary training.
Okay, I have to admit, I've been guilty of this next one myself.
Oh.
Learning words in isolation.
Yeah.
But the mini lesson stresses the importance of learning words in context. Why is that so crucial?
I think rote memorization might help you pass like a vocabulary quiz or something, but it doesn't necessarily lead to true understanding.
Okay.
When you encounter a word in context, in a sentence or a phrase,
Right.
you see how it interacts with other words. You know how its meaning shifts subtly depending on the surrounding language.
So it's like the difference between knowing the individual ingredients of a cake
Okay.
versus understanding how they all work together to create that final delicious result.
No, right. Exactly. The mini lesson even mentions this idea of collocations.
Collocation, so
Yeah, words that just tend to go together naturally.
Okay.
Like make a decision, or heavy rain, or take a break.
Got it.
And learning these kind of chunks of language can help you sound more fluent, more natural.
It's like learning the right dance steps
Yes.
instead of just flailing your arms around randomly on the dance floor.
Exactly.
Now, I know we're all about making language learning fun and engaging, but there's no escaping the need for consistency.
Right. And that's where that final strategy comes in.
Okay.
Practice and review consistently.
Got it. And this is where that spaced repetition we talked about earlier comes into play.
Yes, exactly. The mini lesson suggests reviewing new words, after one day, 3 days, a week, and so on.
Okay.
And this gradual spacing helps those words really sink in.
Right.
And become part of your long-term vocabulary.
It's like you're building a vocabulary muscle.
Yes.
You need to work it out regularly to see results.
You got it.
The mini lesson even breaks down a sample review schedule where you learn like 5 new words a day.
Okay.
And then review them at these specific intervals. It feels so much less overwhelming when you see it all laid out like that.
Absolutely. Even just like 10 or 15 minutes a day, whether it's reviewing flashcards, writing your vocabulary journal, or doing a quick self-quiz, it can make a huge difference over time. It's about finding those pockets of time in your day and turning them into vocabulary-boosting opportunities.
I love it. So we've covered some really solid strategies for learning new words.
We have.
But the mini lesson doesn't stop there.
It doesn't.
No. It also provides some practical activities to actually put those strategies into action.
Ooh, okay, I like this.
The first one's called a quick flash review.
Quick flash review, okay.
Which, as the name suggests, involves flashcards.
Makes sense.
I'm guessing most people are pretty familiar with the concept of flashcards, right?
Yeah, they're classic for a reason.
For sure.
But you know what? The mini lesson adds a fun little twist.
What's that?
A timer challenge.
Oh, cool.
So you set a timer for 1 minute, and you try to get through as many flashcards as possible.
Okay.
It's a great way to add a little friendly competition to your review sessions,
Love it.
even if you're just competing against yourself.
Right. I love the idea of gamifying learning.
Me too.
It can really help keep things interesting
For sure.
and prevent those review sessions from becoming, monotonous.
Absolutely. Now, the next activity is where things get a little bit more interactive.
Okay.
It's the word of the day role play.
Ooh, this one sounds fun. So the idea is to choose a word of the day.
Right.
Why don't we use one we've mentioned already?
Okay. Yeah.
How about intriguing?
Intriguing. Perfect choice. Now we each need to come up with a short dialogue.
Okay.
So where we use intriguing naturally. At least twice.
Okay.
Imagine we're at a bookstore.
All right. Give me a sec to think. Okay, I got it. We're browsing the shelves, and I spot a book with a cover that just screams, "Read me."
Haha, I'm already hooked. What happens next?
I turn to you and say, "Wow, this new mystery novel looks so intriguing. I've heard great things about the author."
And I might reply with something like, I've been meaning to try something different. Tell me more about what makes it so intriguing.
See, it's all about finding ways to use the word in a context that feels, real and relatable.
Exactly.
The mini lesson encourages you, the listener, to come up with your own dialogues too.
It's such a fantastic way to practice using new vocabulary in a creative and engaging way. Now, the final activity is perhaps the easiest and most accessible of them all.
Okay.
Self-talk.
We all do it, right?
We do.
But now we have an excuse to do it in English.
Exactly. The idea is to simply narrate your actions throughout the day.
Okay.
I'm making breakfast, I'm walking to work, I'm answering emails.
Yeah.
The challenge is to try to sprinkle in at least one new word each day.
That's a good challenge.
Right.
It's such a low-pressure way to practice.
It is.
You're your own audience, so there's no fear of judgment.
Right. And over time, you'll be surprised at how naturally those new words start to flow.
That's awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We talked about key strategies, practical activies. But before we move on, I want to highlight one important takeaway that really resonated with me.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's the reminder that learning new words is not just about, expanding your vocabulary. It's about expanding your horizons, your ability to engage with the world around you in deeper and more meaningful ways.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right.
It's about unlocking new possibilities.
Exactly. And with that in mind, I'd love to hear from you, the listener.
Oh, yeah.
What word of the day would you choose, and what scenario would you create to practice using it?
Ooh, I love it.
Share your ideas in the comments below.
That's a great way to bring the listener into the conversation.
Right.
It's all about making vocabulary learning interactive and engaging.
Totally.
Okay.
Now let's kind of shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and explore another activity from the mini lesson.
All right.
Self-talk
Ah, yes, the art of talking to yourself.
in English.
In English.
It might sound a little strange at first,
Yeah.
but it's actually a brilliant way to practice.
It is.
Without any pressure or self-consciousness, you can do it anywhere, anytime.
I've been trying this out myself lately, and I found it surprisingly helpful. Yeah. It's like having this internal dialogue that helps to solidify those new words in my mind.
Okay, let's give it a try right now.
All right.
I'm going to try to incorporate a new word into my self-talk.
Okay.
How about this? I'm finding this deep dive into vocabulary learning to be quite enlightening. I'm curious to see what other strategies we'll uncover next.
That's a great example. Yeah. You seamlessly worked in a new word and made it sound totally natural.
Thanks. And it's even more fascinating.
What?
The fact that we're constantly learning and evolving, even as, seasoned podcast hosts.
So true. There's always something new to discover.
Right.
Even in a field we're already familiar with. It's like we're back to that first tip from the mini lesson.
Right.
Choosing content that genuinely interests us.
And that's what keeps learning fresh and exciting.
Yeah.
When you're curious and engaged, your brain is just primed to absorb new information.
Absolutely.
Speaking of curiosity, have you come across anything lately that's really sparked your interest? Maybe something completely outside the realm of language learning.
Well, I've been reading a lot about the latest developments in virtual reality technology.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, the potential applications in education, particularly language learning, are pretty mind-blowing.
Wow, that does sound fascinating. Can't imagine how immersive VR experiences could revolutionize the way we learn languages.
Right. The possibilities are pretty much endless. But you know what else I find amazing?
What's that?
The human brain's capacity for language learning. Its inherent ability to adapt and grow.
It is remarkable. We're wired for communication.
Yeah.
To connect with each other through words.
Absolutely. And the more words we have at our disposal, the richer and more nuanced those connections can be. It's like having a wider palette of colors to paint with, or a more diverse set of instruments to compose music with.
Oh, I love those metaphors.
Right.
They perfectly capture the beauty and power of language.
And that brings us back to the core message of this deep dive.
Okay.
Listening new English words daily is not just about expanding your vocabulary.
Right.
It's about expanding your horizons, your ability to engage with the world around you in deeper, more meaningful ways.
It's about unlocking new possibilities, both personally and professionally.
Exactly.
So as you kind of embark on this vocabulary building journey, remember this. Every new word you learn is a key. That unlocks a new door, a new perspective, a new connection.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
And who knows what amazing discoveries might be waiting for you on the other side.
This has been such an insightful deep dive so far. We started with a mini lesson on daily vocabulary learning, and now we're pondering the future of virtual reality.
I know.
And the incredible capabilities of the human brain.
It's amazing how one topic can lead to another.
It is.
How interconnected knowledge truly is.
It reminds me of that famous saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
That is so true. And that realization is both humbling and exhilarating.
It is.
It fuels our curiosity.
Yeah.
And it drives us to keep learning, to keep exploring.
Which is exactly what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Oh, I love these final thoughts.
Right.
They always leave me with something to ponder long after the episode ends.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. We've talked a lot about the practical benefits of learning new words. But what about the emotional impact? How does learning a new word make you feel?
Ooh, That's such an insightful question.
Right.
It goes beyond just like the cognitive aspects of language, and it taps into the deeper, more personal side of learning.
Think about it. When you finally grasp the meaning of a word that's been eluding you,
Right.
or when you use a newly learned word confidently in a conversation,
Yeah.
how does it make you feel?
Yeah. Do you feel a sense of accomplishment, of empowerment? Yeah. Maybe even a little thrill of excitement.
I do. It's like cracking a code or unlocking a secret.
Yeah.
And that feeling of mastery,
Yeah.
of expanding your linguistic repertoire.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly motivating.
So true. So as you continue on your vocabulary journey, pay attention not just to the words themselves,
Okay.
but to the emotions they evoke.
Mm-hmm.
Let those positive feelings fuel your passion for language learning.
I love that. And remember, every new word you learn is a victory,
It is.
a testament to your ability to grow and evolve.
Beautifully said.
We'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive into learning English words daily.
Can't wait.
Until then, happy learning.
And may your vocabulary be ever expanding.
See you soon.
Bye. That was such a great question to end on.
Yeah.
I love how you brought the emotional aspect of language learning into the mix.
It's so true, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about adding words to like a mental list or whatever.
Yeah.
It's about how those words make us feel, More confident, more connected,
Yeah.
more capable of expressing ourselves.
Exactly.
Like every new word adds another brushstroke to the canvas of our communication.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, enough with the artsy metaphors for now.
Huh, okay.
Remember all those practical activities from the mini lesson?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking it's time to try one out ourselves.
Okay.
Live and direct for our listeners' benefit.
Ooh, a live demo.
Yeah.
I'm always up for a challenge.
All right,
Which one are we thinking?
let's revisit the word of the day role play.
Okay.
We already picked our word. Enlightening.
Yeah.
Inspired by that self-talk example we just did.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's see if we can weave it into like a spontaneous dialogue.
All right, game on. Let's set the scene. How about we pretend we just finished listening to a guest speaker at a conference?
Love it. Conferences are full of enlightening moments, or at least
Yeah.
they're supposed to be.
Right.
Okay, so picture this. We're walking out of the auditorium, still buzzing from the talk,
Okay.
and you turn to me and say,
Wow, that presentation on the future of renewable energy was so enlightening. I had no idea we were making such progress.
and I'd reply, I know, right? It was really enlightening to hear about those new solar panel technologies. It gives me hope for a more sustainable future.
Nailed it.
Ooh.
We managed to use enlightening in a natural, conversational way.
See? It wasn't even that hard.
That at all.
You, listening right now, can do this too.
Yeah.
Pick a word, any word,
Uh-huh.
and imagine a scenario where you might use it.
Mhm.
The mini lesson makes a great point. You're much more likely to remember a word if you can connect it to a real-life situation.
Absolutely. The more you can make those connections, the more those new words will start to feel like your own.
Now, there's one more activity from the mini lesson we haven't tackled yet.
Oh, which one?
Self-talk.
Oh, right.
Remember, this is where you basically narrate your own life in English,
Mm-hmm.
sprinkling in those newly acquired words.
It might sound a little silly at first.
Yeah.
But honestly, who's judging? You're your own audience.
Exactly.
Plus, it's a fantastic way to practice without any pressure.
Okay, let's give it a go.
All right.
Imagine I'm making my morning coffee.
Okay.
I could say something like, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee is incredibly invigorating.
Yeah.
It's the perfect way to start a productive day.
See? Effortless.
Ha.
And you slipped in invigorating like a pro.
I try.
What's fascinating about this technique is that it forces you to think about how to use the word
Okay.
in a way that makes sense for you
Right.
in your daily routine.
It's like tailoring a vocabulary suit that fits perfectly.
Exactly. It's about making those words your own,
Right.
integrating them into the fabric of your daily life.
This deep dive has been so insightful so far.
Yes.
We've gone from practical strategies to hands-on activities
Mhm.
and even touched upon like the emotional side of language learning.
Right.
But what really strikes me is this underlying theme of personalization.
Oh, interesting.
It's not about following a rigid set of rules or anything.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you,
Mm-hmm.
making those words come alive in your own unique way.
You hit the nail on the head. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to language learning.
No.
What matters most is finding methods that resonate with you, that keep you engaged and motivated.
And that's the beauty of this mini lesson, right?
Absolutely.
It's packed with ideas and activities.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it empowers you to be the architect of your own vocabulary journey.
Absolutely. It's like a toolbox filled with all the tools you need to build your own linguistic masterpiece.
I love it.
Speaking of tools,
Yeah.
do you remember that point in the mini lesson about spaced repetition?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's worth revisiting
Okay.
because it's such a powerful technique.
Absolutely. For anyone just joining us, spaced repetition is this brilliant idea of reviewing material at increasing intervals. So you might review a new word after a day, then 3 days, then a week, and so on.
Right.
It's all about outsmarting your brain's tendency to forget things.
Exactly. And what's so cool is that there's a scientific basis for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Research has shown that spaced repetition actually helps to strengthen those neural pathways in your brain,
Wow.
making it much more likely that those new words will stick around for the long haul.
So it's like building a mental muscle memory
Yes.
for vocabulary.
And here's where technology can really come in handy.
Okay.
There are tons of apps out there that do the spacing for you.
Oh, nice.
So you don't have to keep track of all those review dates or anything.
That's awesome.
It's like having a personal vocabulary coach in your pocket.
Speaking of personal coaches,
Yeah.
have you ever tried working with a language tutor
Oh, yeah.
or joining a conversation group? The mini lesson didn't really go into those options in detail,
Right.
but I think they're worth mentioning.
Absolutely. Having a tutor or language partner can provide that extra layer of accountability and personalized feedback.
It's like having a guide on your vocabulary trek.
Exactly. And conversation groups are fantastic for, putting those new words into practice in a real-world setting.
Right. It's one thing to recognize a word on a page or in a flashcard,
Yeah,
but it's a whole different ball game to be able to use it confidently in a conversation.
I agree.
So to our listener out there, if you're feeling stuck or want to take your vocabulary learning to the next level,
Yeah,
don't hesitate to explore those options.
good advice.
There's a whole community of language learners out there ready to support and encourage you on your journey.
Now let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about something that often gets overlooked in language learning.
What's that?
The importance of pronunciation.
Ah, yes, pronunciation. The art of making those sounds that twist and turn our tongues in ways we never imagined.
Haha, so true. And while the mini lesson didn't really delve too deeply into this aspect,
Right.
I think it's crucial for anyone who wants to be understood and to sound more fluent.
Absolutely. Think about it. You might have this vast vocabulary,
Yeah.
but if your pronunciation is off, it can create a communication barrier.
Exactly. It's like having a beautiful message written on a piece of paper,
Right.
but then crumpling it up before you hand it to someone.
Oh, no.
The message is there,
Yeah.
but it's difficult to decipher.
So what are some tips for improving pronunciation? What worked for you on your language learning journey?
One thing that really helped me was listening intently to native speakers.
Okay.
I would pay close attention to how they formed sounds, the rhythm and intonation of their speech.
It's like training your ears
Yeah.
to pick up those subtle nuances.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's practice, practice, practice.
Right.
I would spend hours repeating words and phrases, trying to mimic those native speaker sounds as closely as possible.
It's like fine-tuning a musical instrument,
Yeah.
getting those notes to ring out clearly and accurately.
And don't be afraid to use resources, too, like online dictionaries and pronunciation guides. They can be incredibly helpful,
Yeah.
especially for those tricky sounds that just don't exist in your native language.
And remember, there are so many different accents and dialects out there.
That's true.
Don't feel pressured to sound exactly like one particular speaker.
Right.
The goal is to be clear and understandable
Yeah.
while still embracing your own unique voice.
Speaking of unique voices,
Yeah.
have you noticed how our own voices have evolved over time
Interesting.
as we've immersed ourselves in different languages and cultures?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's like our voices become a tapestry,
Ooh.
woven with threads of all the languages we've encountered.
Wow, I love that.
And that's what makes language learning so enriching. It's not just about acquiring new words.
Right.
It's about expanding our understanding of the world.
Yeah.
And of ourselves.
I love that image.
Yeah.
Our voices as linguistic tapestries, reflecting our unique journeys and experiences. And just like tapestries, they continue to evolve and grow as we learn and explore.
So to our listener out there, as you continue on your vocabulary adventure, don't be afraid to embrace the journey, the challenges, and the triumphs.
Right.
Allow yourself to be transformed by the power of language.
Remember, every new word you learn is a step toward fluency.
It is.
A brushstroke on your linguistic canvas.
Ooh, another one.
A thread in your ever-evolving tapestry of voices.
This deep dive has taken us on quite a journey so far.
It has.
From practical tips to thought-provoking questions to a celebration of the transformative power of language.
And we're not done yet. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive.
Yes.
Where we'll explore even more insights from the mini lesson and leave you with some final words of wisdom to carry with you on your vocabulary quest. Welcome back to our deep dive into learning English words daily. I feel like we've already covered so much ground. From those like practical sticky note strategies to the idea of our voices as like ever-evolving tapestries.
Just love that metaphor.
Woven with the threads of different languages.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It has.
And yet there's still so much to explore.
Right.
What I love about this mini lesson is that it just packs in so much valuable information, but it still feels manageable, you know?
Right. It's like they distilled all the best advice on vocabulary learning into like this potent shot of knowledge.
It is.
And speaking of potency,
let's
revisit that concept of consistency, which the mini lesson really emphasizes.
Ah, yes, consistency. The secret ingredient to success in pretty much any endeavor, language learning included.
For sure.
It's so tempting to want to cram a ton of new words all at once, but that often leads to like overwhelm and frustration.
It's like trying to eat a whole birthday cake in one sitting. You might get a sugar rush initially, but you'll probably end up with a stomach ache and no real enjoyment of the cake itself.
That's such a good analogy. It's much better to savor those slices of vocabulary knowledge one at a time, allowing them to digest and become part of your, long-term linguistic repertoire.
I like that. Yeah, so it's not about intensity.
Right.
It's more about creating a sustainable habit.
Exactly.
And that's where those 20-minute daily chunks that the mini lesson advocates for really shine.
Yeah.
It feels doable, even on the busiest of days.
It does.
Exactly. It's about weaving vocabulary learning into the fabric of your life, making it as routine as like brushing your teeth or checking your email.
I like that.
And that's where those practical activities we've been discussing come into play. You know, they make it fun and engaging, almost like a game.
Totally.
From those playful sticky notes to those spontaneous self-talk moments, it's about finding what clicks for you.
Yeah.
What keeps those vocabulary gears turning.
And don't underestimate the power of simply noticing new words in the wild. Whether you're reading a news article or watching a movie or eavesdropping on a conversation. Ooh, sneaky.
Don't tell anyone I said that.
Your secret's safe with me.
Good.
But yeah, be on the lookout for those unfamiliar words.
It's like turning the world into your own personal vocabulary playground.
I love that.
And once you've spotted a new word, don't just let it fly by.
Yeah.
Take a moment to jot it down, look it up, try to use it in a sentence.
Okay.
The more you interact with those words, the more likely they are to stick.
It's like making a new friend.
Right.
The more you get to know them, the more they become a part of your life.
You know, it's interesting how we often approach language learning with the sense of urgency. Like we need to conquer it as quickly as possible.
Right.
But what if we shifted our perspective a little bit?
Okay.
And viewed it as an ongoing journey?
Yeah.
A lifelong exploration of the beauty and complexity of language.
That's such a powerful reframing.
It is, right.
It takes the pressure off.
And allows us to just embrace the process, the ups and downs, the aha moments.
Right.
And the times when we stumble.
And through it all, we're learning, we're growing, we're expanding our horizons. It's like we're adding new colors to our linguistic palette, new instruments to our symphony of communication.
I love that imagery.
Yeah.
It reminds us that language learning is not just about practicality.
Right.
It's about creativity, expression, connection.
And those are things worth savoring, don't you think?
Absolutely. So, to our listener out there, as you continue on your vocabulary quest, remember to enjoy the ride, embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories,
and never stop exploring the wonders of language.
And remember, every new word you learn is a gift.
It is.
A treasure that will enrich your life in countless ways.
This deep dive has been such a rewarding experience, exploring all these practical strategies and insightful tips for learning English words daily.
It has.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
And with you, our wonderful listener. We hope you've gleaned some valuable insights from this deep dive and feel inspired to embark on your own vocabulary adventure.
Until next time, happy learning.
And may your vocabulary be ever expanding. Okay, picture this. You've just gotten off the plane in London. You're jet-lagged, but that smell of coffee is calling your name.
Oh, yeah.
You wander into this cute little cafe, but you want to order like a local, not just another tourist, with a phrase book.
Right.
So that's where this deep dive comes in.
Yeah.
We've got all these articles and tips about mastering coffee shop interactions in English.
It really is amazing how these small little chats can really open up a whole new world when you're learning a language.
Absolutely.
It's not even just about the coffee, it's about connecting with the culture and feeling more confident.
So let's get into it. We have articles on vocab regional slang, even a study on the psychology of ordering. Where do we even begin?
Well, we got to start with a strong foundation, right?
Yeah.
And, we tend to forget that even basic vocabulary can tell us a lot about a culture.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like take the flat white, for example.
I've seen that on menus. But I'm always a little afraid to ask what it is.
Yeah, so basically it's a double shot of espresso with just a tiny bit of steamed milk on top. Okay.
It's super popular in Australia and New Zealand. And, that tells us a lot about their coffee culture, right? They're all about that strong espresso flavor, and there's this huge emphasis on the texture of that microphone.
So it's not just about knowing the words, it's about understanding where they come from.
Right.
That makes sense.
Like, the difference between asking for a large coffee and realizing that at Starbucks, you got to order a venti.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I've definitely been in situations where I've used the wrong word for sizes and I felt so awkward.
Right. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
But being aware of those little differences can help you blend in a little more.
For sure.
And while we're talking about variations, let's get into the world of modifiers.
Oh, man. Those can be tricky. I remember once I tried to order a decaf soy latte in New York. It was so busy and loud, and I ended up with something totally different.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a mess. That's why knowing how to use those modifiers confidently is so important. It's not even just about getting your order right, it's about feeling good expressing what you want. Imagine you're in a London coffee shop, it's freezing outside, and you're craving a soy latte extra hot. How would you order that?
Let's see, could I please have a soy latte extra hot?
Nailed it. You sound like you've been living in London for years.
Why try?
And don't be afraid to ask questions if you're not sure about something.
Right, like if I see a drink on the menu and I have no idea what it is, I can just ask.
Exactly. You could say, what's in a cortado?
Yeah.
And chatting with the barista helps you get your order right, but it also adds a little local flavor to the whole experience.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of vocab and modifiers. What about those phrases that really make you sound like you belong?
Oh, there are some classics that can make things go a lot smoother. Could I please have? It's always a polite and safe bet.
I tend to use I'd like a, it feels a bit more direct to me.
Yeah, and that's great too. It shows confidence.
Okay, cool.
So you've got your base, and then you add those modifiers on top.
Like building blocks.
Exactly. And the more you practice saying these phrases out loud, the easier it gets.
Okay, so we've got the vocab, the key phrases down. Now, how do we actually connect with the coffee shop culture, not just order and leave?
That's where the magic of small talk comes in.
I don't know, small talk can feel a little superficial sometimes.
Yeah, I get that, but small talk serves a different purpose depending on where you are in the world. In a lot of English-speaking cultures, it's all about showing politeness, easing into a conversation.
So it's more about the social interaction than the topic itself.
Right, and you'd be surprised how much you can learn about a culture just by paying attention to the way people do small talk.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like in some cultures, talking about the weather might seem boring, but in the UK, it's practically a national sport.
Okay, so if I'm in a London coffee shop and it's raining cats and dogs outside, I could say something like, wow, this weather is wild.
Exactly. And they might say, oh, tell me about it. Typical British weather, though. See, you've just started a whole conversation.
Right.
It's amazing how a little comment like that can lead to so much. And it's not just about talking to strangers. You can use small talk with the barista too. Just a simple, how's your day going, can make things feel more personal.
I like that. It feels more human.
Exactly. It's all about building those little connections, even if they're brief.
Right. So we've got the vocabulary, the ordering phrases, and now the art of small talk. What else do we need to know to really master the coffee shop scene?
Well, there's this whole other layer of communication that's happening beyond the words we speak.
You mean like the unspoken rules, the etiquette?
Exactly. Those unspoken rules can be tough to figure out, especially in a new culture.
Yeah, for sure. Like personal space, I've definitely been in some crowded coffee shops where I felt like I was on top of the person next to me.
Oh yeah, personal space is a big one, and it's different everywhere. But in a lot of English-speaking countries, it's polite to give people some breathing room.
So if I'm at a table, I shouldn't spread out all my stuff like I own the place.
Good rule of thumb. And if you're waiting in line, try not to crowd the person in front of you.
Right. It's all about being considerate, even when it's busy.
Exactly. What about noise level? I've noticed some coffee shops are super loud and others are really quiet.
Yeah. How do you know what the vibe is? I don't want to be that person yelling on my phone in a silent cafe.
It's all about looking around, you know? Pay attention to how loud people are talking and adjust your volume accordingly.
And if I need to take a call, I should probably step outside.
Right. Just be respectful of everyone around you. Now, speaking of sharing space, let's talk about working or studying in a coffee shop.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Coffee shops are like a second office for a lot of people.
Totally. But there are definitely some unspoken rules there.
Like, if you're going to be there for a while, you should probably buy more than just one coffee.
Right. You don't want to hog a table all day and only spend a couple of dollars.
Makes sense. What about laptops and stuff?
Yeah, be mindful of the volume on your devices. You know, nobody wants to hear your music or your keyboard clicking away.
And if it's crowded, try to keep your stuff contained.
Exactly. Sharing is caring. Actually, one of our sources mentions a study about how noise affects productivity.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so basically they found that certain kinds of noise, like loud conversations or sudden sounds, can be super distracting.
Okay.
But consistent, quiet background noise, like the coffee machine or soft music, can actually help people focus.
That's probably why you get so much work done in coffee shops.
Right. It's that perfect balance.
Okay, so we've talked about the spoken and the unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, from how to order to cultural nuances and even workspace etiquette. But I'm curious, how does this all go beyond just getting a cup of coffee? How does it connect to language learning and feeling more comfortable in a new culture?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's something we forget about a lot. We get so focused on learning vocab and grammar that we forget why we're doing it in the first place. Language is about connecting with people and experiencing the world in a different way.
You know, you're right. I've had times where I've messed up words or pronounced things wrong, but the person I was talking to was so nice about it. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about the connection.
Exactly. Those are the moments that make language learning come alive. You realize it's about the human interaction, the shared moments, not just about getting the words right.
So how do we encourage our listeners to really embrace those moments, to get out of their comfort zone and really experience the culture?
I think it starts with a change in mindset. Instead of seeing language learning as something you have to do, see it as an adventure.
I love that.
A way to explore new places, connect with different people.
What's rating in your textbook for a plane ticket?
Exactly. And coffee shops are the perfect place to start these adventures.
Yeah.
They're like these little mini cultures where you can observe, interact, and practice your language skills in a safe space.
So don't just grab your coffee and go. Take a moment to really be there.
Right. Listen to the conversations happening around you. Notice how people are interacting.
Yeah, it's like a mini ethnography project.
Exactly. And if you feel up to it, don't be afraid to start a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
It could be the barista, someone at another table, even the person in line behind you.
You never know what you might learn.
And even if it's just a quick chat, it's still a chance to practice your skills and connect with someone from a different background.
It's amazing how these little interactions can be so meaningful.
Right. Like each conversation is a window into another world.
So we've talked about the spoken and unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, the importance of small talk, and how these everyday encounters can help us understand language and culture better. What else can we give our listeners to help them navigate all this with confidence?
I think it's important to address the fear of making mistakes. You know, a lot of people are afraid to speak up because they think they'll say the wrong thing.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been there. I totally chickened out of speaking because I was scared of messing up.
It happens. But remember, making mistakes is part of learning.
Like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times before you get it.
Exactly. Same goes for language. Embrace those awkward moments. Those times when you feel like you're fumbling over your words. It's all part of the journey.
And a lot of times people are more understanding than we think.
Totally. Most people appreciate when you try to speak their language. They're not going to focus on every little grammar mistake.
So instead of getting down on yourself for making mistakes, see them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. Each mistake is a chance to get better and build your confidence.
And sometimes those mistakes lead to the best stories.
Absolutely. Some of my favorite language learning memories are those times when I totally messed up or misunderstood something. They're the stories that make you laugh and teach you something new about the culture.
So to everyone listening, embrace the mistakes, laugh at the awkward moments, and celebrate the small wins.
Because the journey of language learning is just as important as the destination. And hey, you might even discover a hidden talent for comedy along the way.
Speaking of discoveries, one of our sources talks about the psychological benefits of getting out of your comfort zone.
That sounds interesting. Tell me more.
So the article says that challenging yourself to do things that make you a little uncomfortable can actually make you more confident and resilient.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And when you apply that to language learning, it means that the more you push yourself to speak, to start conversations, to try new things, the more confident you become.
And that confidence can spread to other parts of your life, too.
It's a ripple effect.
Exactly.
It's amazing how something as simple as ordering a coffee can be so powerful.
Really is. Those little interactions can change the way we see ourselves and the way we connect with the world.
So next time you're in a coffee shop, remember you're not just getting a drink, you're starting an adventure.
Embrace the unknown, challenge yourself, and enjoy the experience. You might be surprised by what you find.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From basic vocabulary and cultural differences to the art of small talk and the power of making mistakes.
It's been a good one.
I'm feeling pretty energized now, ready to conquer any coffee shop in the world.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
And remember, we've just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore, to learn, and to experience.
So to everyone listening, keep practicing, keep trying new things, and keep those coffee cups full.
Yes.
Because the world is out there waiting to be discovered, one conversation at a time.
Beautifully said.
And maybe with a delicious latte in hand.
Always. It's funny, because there's this whole other level of communication happening in coffee shops.
Oh, yeah.
It goes beyond just the words.
You mean like the unspoken rules, all that etiquette stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those unspoken rules can be a little tricky to navigate, especially in a new culture.
Well, one that comes to mind is personal space.
Yeah.
I've been in those packed coffee shops where you're practically sitting on a stranger's lap.
Oh, yeah. Personal space is a big one for sure. It's different everywhere. But in a lot of English-speaking countries, people like to have a bit of breathing room.
So if I'm at a table, I shouldn't be spreading out all my stuff like I own the place.
Exactly. And if you're waiting in line, don't be breathing down someone's neck. Just be mindful of the person in front of you.
Right. It's about being considerate of others.
Yeah.
Even when it's super busy.
Absolutely. What about noise level? Have you noticed how some coffee shops are really loud and others are like super quiet?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's tricky sometimes. You don't want to be that person talking really loudly on their phone when everyone else is whispering.
Right. It's all about reading the room, observe the vibe and adjust accordingly.
So if people are whispering, I should keep my voice down too.
Exactly. And if there's a lot of chatter, then you can relax a bit more.
And if I need to take a phone call, I should probably step outside or find a quieter spot.
Exactly. Just be mindful of the shared space and the people around you. Now, speaking of shared space, let's talk about working or studying in a coffee shop.
Oh, this is a big one. It seems like coffee shops have become like a second office for a lot of people these days.
They really have, but there are definitely some etiquette rules to keep in mind.
Like if you're planning to camp out there for a while, you should probably buy more than just a single coffee.
Yeah, it's kind of a courtesy,
Right.
You don't want to take up a table for hours and only spend a couple of dollars.
Right. What about using laptops and stuff?
Be mindful of the volume on your devices. No one wants to hear your music blasting or your keyboard clicking nonstop.
And if it's crowded, try to be space conscious.
Mm.
Don't spread out all your belongings and take up the whole table.
Exactly. It's all about being considerate and sharing the space. Actually, one of our sources mentions a study about the impact of noise on productivity.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Yeah, so apparently certain types of noise, like really loud conversations or sudden bursts of sound, can be super distracting.
Okay.
But consistent low-level background noise, like the sound of the coffee machine or soft music, can actually help people focus and be more creative.
That makes sense. I feel like I get some of my best work done in busy coffee shops.
Right, it's that perfect balance of energy and ambient noise.
So we've covered the spoken rules and the unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, from ordering phrases to cultural nuances and even workspace etiquette. But I'm curious, how does this all go beyond just getting a coffee? How does it connect to the bigger picture of language learning and cultural immersion?
That's a great question. And it's something we often overlook. We get so caught up in memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules that we forget the real reason we're learning a language.
What do you mean?
It's about connecting with people and experiencing the world in a new way.
Yeah, I've definitely had those moments where I've stumbled over words or mispronounced things, but the person I was talking to was so patient and understanding. And in those moments, it wasn't about being perfect, it was about the connection.
Exactly. Those are the moments that make language learning come alive. It's not just about the words, it's about the human interaction, the shared laughter, the cultural exchange.
So how can we encourage our listeners to embrace those moments, to step out of their comfort zones and really dive into the cultural experience?
I think it starts with a shift in mindset. Instead of seeing language learning as a chore or a test to pass, see it as an adventure.
I love that.
A way to explore new worlds, connect with different people, expand your horizons.
Like trading in your textbook for a passport.
Exactly. And coffee shops can be the perfect starting point for those adventures. They're like these microcosms of culture where you can observe, interact, and practice your language skills in a safe and welcoming environment.
So instead of just grabbing a coffee to go take a moment to really be there.
Right. Listen to the conversations happening around you. Notice those subtle cues of body language and social interaction.
It's like turning your coffee break into a little research project.
Exactly. And if you feel comfortable, don't be afraid to strike up a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
It could be the barista, someone at another table, or even the person standing in line behind you.
You never know what interesting stories you might hear or what you might learn.
And even if it's just a quick chat, it's still a valuable opportunity to practice your language skills and connect with someone from a different culture.
It's amazing how these seemingly insignificant interactions can actually be so enriching.
It's like each conversation is a window into another world.
So we've talked about the spoken and unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, the importance of small talk, and how these everyday encounters can deepen our understanding of language and culture. What else can we offer our listeners to help them navigate this world with confidence?
It's funny. We always talk about fluency, like it's this big goal, like reaching the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more about enjoying the climb itself.
I think you're absolutely right. It's
Yeah.
about those little moments of connection,
Yeah.
Those times when you finally get that pronunciation right or when you have your first real conversation with someone.
It's those moments that make all the hard work worth it. I remember when I was learning Spanish, I was so focused on all the grammar rules and verb tenses.
Right. That I forgot to just enjoy speaking the language.
It's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff, especially when you're first starting out, but we got to remember that language is really all about communication and connecting with people.
I had this experience once in this tiny little cafe in Barcelona.
Oh, yeah?
I was trying to order a café con leche, and I totally butchered the pronunciation.
I bet the barista still knew what you meant, though.
Oh, they did. And they even gave me this little smile and said, "Mi bien." It was such a small thing, but it made me feel so good.
It's those little gestures that make all the difference. They remind us that we're all human. We all make mistakes, and we're all just trying our best.
It's like this universal language of kindness that goes beyond any grammar mistakes. It's that feeling of, hey, we're both putting in the effort, and that's what matters.
Exactly. And those moments often lead to the most genuine connections.
It makes me think about all the times I've been afraid to speak up in a new language. I've been so worried about sounding silly. But then I remember those encouraging smiles, those patient people, and it gives me the courage to try again.
It really is like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And that goes for confidence, too. Each time you push yourself to speak, to try something new, you're building that confidence muscle.
And those small wins, they add up over time.
They do.
And you start to feel more self-assured, not just in language learning, but in other areas of your life, too.
Absolutely. It's like this ripple effect. You realize you can handle new and unfamiliar situations. It's about embracing the unknown and trusting yourself to figure it out.
And what better place to practice those skills than in a coffee shop, right?
Seriously.
Surrounded by all that energy, all those conversations.
It's the perfect environment to observe, to experiment, to just enjoy the process of learning and growing.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into coffee shop confidence, let's leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
It's not about speaking perfectly. It's about enjoying the journey. It's about those small moments of connection, those awkward stumbles, those unexpected discoveries. It's about trying new things and being okay with being a beginner again.
Well said.
And who knows? You might just find that the best part of the whole journey is the coffee itself.
To stronger coffee and even stronger conversations.
Cheers to that. And to all our listeners out there, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep those coffee cups full, because the world is waiting to be discovered one conversation at a time.
Couldn't have said it better myself.